the gap between people and those in authority. With Hard Facts, you are sure to get only the facts.
Tune in to Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria.
.3 Nigeria info. 4 minutes gone past the 5 o'clock hour. Officially welcoming you to Hard Facts. The big Hard Facts today. I did promise that we will be speaking to a presidential spokesperson as we assess Mr. President's 2 years in office. Much has been done. Of course, questions are being asked, and questions have been asked by Nigerians, of course, of what Mr. President has done so far. Well, our presidential spokesperson is here to give answers to all of those questions and, of course, tell us what the future holds for this administration. I'm being joined by Mr. Sunday Dare, apparently former Minister of Sport, who is now the Special Advisor to President Tinubu on Media and Public Relations. It's so good to have you join us, Mr. Dare. I know I've been on your matter all day, and now I finally got you here. Welcome to the show.
That was a pleasure to come on your show. Thank you very much for having me.
Lovely. I brought the amala. Unfortunately, it's getting cold.
We're going to restock and get to the hot amala.
All right. Let's start by looking at Mr. President's coming into office May 29, 2 years ago, with that very famous subsidy must go, message to Nigerians, which obviously reverberated across the country. From there till now, what can you say as someone who's within the cabinet that has been the major gains of this administration that you can actually hand on chest speak on?
Thank you very much. Let me just say that the president, when he took over as the president, had to take two make two important decisions. So those decisions I will describe as politically risky, because they are decisions that his predecessors have, for reasons that, are important, did not take. They postponed those decisions. They were politically risky, but they were economically necessary. Take the subsidy is gone. Subsidy debate has been on. We can't just live in denial. We know that there was a time in this country over 87 people were arraigned, but they were found the subsidy scam. Eventually, most of them escaped the hands of the law, run out of the country. Some of them got jailed. And that's about 20-something years ago. And the subsidy regime still persisted. And this president, who is a leader, who is also an accountant, who is also from the oil sector, he's been a senator, a governor, has watched this go on. And when he came in as the president, he took that bold decision. Secondly, in this very country, not too far, we've seen our forex being subsidized. And then we see the arbitrage in the forex market. And he also came and pulled that trigger and said, look, we're going to take away the subsidy. So when you look at these two decisions, the simple principle of 21st century economy that makes a lot of sense came in. Willing buyer and willing seller. Let's have the market forces. Let's have competition. Let it play. And what have we seen? We've seen local refining open up. We've seen the breadth or the channel opened up for Dangote to come in. His refinery came on board. Local refining has gone up. We've seen competitive prices. For the first time, we're seeing Dangote and then PCL and the rest advertising crude oil, petrol in terms of prices. That is what we see from modern economies. So when we want to be like countries in Europe and the rest, we must adopt the same economic principles. So it took those tough decisions. But 2 years down the road, Yes, the first year was absolutely tough. It took a while. And that's what happens when you bring about changes. You don't get the relief almost immediately. Remember, even if you have malaria, you get your medication. It's not the moment you get that injection that you cure. It takes a week or two. And it's the same. Every economy takes those injections. So we have a new Surgeon General who took those injections. Where are we now? Let me say this. I know you want to come in. Where are we now? We have quite strong indicators. Strong indicators. When you look at the microeconomics of this country, strong indicators. Is it from the export surplus that we have? Is it the fiscal space that has been opened in terms of revenue generated and what is going to the sub-regionals to help develop their states and also empower their people? Is it our oil production that has gone up from 1.1 to 1.7? Is it also the people-oriented and friendly programs that are already on board as succor for our people from this administration? So I know we're going to get into the details because there are a lot of details and we can relate to them. But let me say this up front. We're turning the curve. We're not yet there. But we're encouraged by the fact that these policies and initiatives are beginning to yield results.
Lovely. Let's stay with the oil and gas sector, which is a major concern. Just last weekend, or just this weekend, I beg your pardon, the NNPC said they're shutting down the Port Harcourt refinery for another round of maintenance, which we've seen happen over and over again before we finally saw the NNPC open the Port Harcourt refinery. Whether or not they're producing is also another subject for debate. But I want to talk more about transparency and the role that the NNPCL has played in this whole subsidy situation. The NNPC is a sole importer of PMS, and report shows that it's been covering losses from under recovery. We've also heard that, I think it was Senator Maryann Okon who said last week that the amount of crude that we are losing is a lot more than some OPEC countries can actually produce. This whole subsidy situation, how transparent has the government and the NNPCL been so far to us? Because if you ask me as a journalist, I still do not know the clear picture of what's happening in the NNPCL. How much crude do we as Nigerians take in every other day? There's no clear-cut mark to it. Today is one story. How is the government, your government, able to help us understand transparency within the NNPCL? We hear the EFCC is doing something, investigating, but there's a trust deficit. How do you intend to close that gap?
The story of oil production, the story of the NNPC as the sole custodian of our oil when it comes to drilling and exploitation is a long story. It didn't just start yesterday. I'm sure, for decades, this country has been producing and exporting oil and also bringing back importing byproducts. And let me say that you have a president who has been in power for just 2 years. So let me put the radar on the 2 years. This government inherited NNPCL, and there was some wisdom by the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, to put NNPC on the path of commercialization. It was towards making sure it was more transparent, it was more accountable, and Nigeria, beyond just crude oil production, can compete. So it freed NNPC from that control, total control of government, to make it a commercial concern. And that was done under the previous administration. This administration inherited NNPCL and continued in the same faith towards making sure it's more transparent. Recall that the Buhari regime also released 1.5 billion to about 2 different foreign companies for the turnaround maintenance of the Kaduna and the Port Harcourt refinery. Now, what has happened in the last 2 years? I'm not an industry person per se, so I cannot give you the granular details of what's happening there. But from what I've seen, I've seen an effort on the part of this administration to make sure that our oil revenue increases. And how does that happen? We've moved from 1.1 million barrels in 2023 to 1.7 million barrels. That means some tweaking took place. Some people became more transparent, but also we had the Niger Delta calm down further so that this prospect of oil can go on. That's very significant. So that has increased Nigeria's oil revenue. Recall also that a board was brought on when the president came in, and he said, "Look, from time to time, I'll review what you do." So when you fast forward, when you look at NNPCL, of course, they render accounts every year. That's I think that's in the public space. This president, at a point when he realized that we're not meeting the targets, the same time, you have the entire board of NNPC removed and replaced. And the new one that came on with clear marching orders, set targets. I think that's also a bit of transparency. Now, you look at the refinery in Port Harcourt. For whatever it's worth, that refinery came back alive. Of course, not to full capacity. When you shut down a refinery for decades, it's going to take a while to retool it, to clean it up. It has several sections and several parts, produces a lot of products. The mere fact that those two refineries in Warri and Port Harcourt came back also shows that some level of accountability and transparency took place. And then when you look at what happened 3 days ago, yes, it was shut down, but in that same statement, they said shut down for maintenance with a timeline of maybe 30 or 35 days for it to come back on stream. So you've seen a bit of sanity and reforms coming into not just the oil industry, its entirety, but also the NNPCL, which is the sole custodian of our oil interest.
In the spirit of transparency, to toe your line, why hasn't the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu been able to provide a clear breakdown of the current PMS landing costs and retail pricing? Because that has been done. Has it?
That has been done. I wish I had those slides here. I recall about 3 weeks ago at the Meet the Press forum in the Villa. You see, the NNPC, there is the NNPC, but also there's the NUPRC. They are the regulators. Farouk, who heads that, held a press briefing at the Meet the Press. And I think he presented more than 32 slides in which he broke down the landing cost, the production capacity of Dangote Refinery, of our local. The details, they for the first time, and it was widely reported. And that wouldn't have happened without the president clearing what he did. For the first time, we also saw that our daily consumption that was put at about 6 million before, we saw that no, it wasn't. We got the actual figure, which was much less than that. And that came under this administration. I wish I had those slides. I will have those, and I will send them.
I hope that you send them to me so that I can share that with my audience. So because, like I said, transparency and the trust deficit is the issue with the oil and gas sector. But let's move away from that because I want to be able to get as much as I can out of you. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the recent spate of insecurity across the country. Before now, and I've been at this for 22 years, and all through the Jonathan administration down to now, every time we talked about Boko Haram or terrorism, it was much more a lot of us would say, oh, it's a northern problem. Many people will just shrug it off. It's a northern problem, but it's coming home. It's in Ondo, it's in Edo, it's in Ebonyi. It's really across the country. Everywhere you turn, there's insecurity, and many are questioning why it has become this bad. Now, the governor of Borno State, Professor Zulum, was quoted to say that, look, these guys have continuously taken lands from them and it's getting out of hand. He's also come out to the press to say these guys are both politicians, they're in the army, these are all informants. This is not the first time we've heard this. The Johnson administration said they had Boko Haram members in their government. So did the Buhari administration. What's the Tinubu administration doing about this? Because The presidency can't also tell us that they dropped from the moon. They knew the problems of Nigeria. They campaigned, your president campaigned on all of these problems. And here we are in 2025. What happened to the names that the UAE sent to the Buhari administration? I'm sure that you took over a lot of information from them. Why are we still having to speak about things that we spoke about under the former administration? We're still having to deal with those things. And it's the same story we're being told every other day. Does this mean that there is no progress?
Well, there is progress. And it's a question of seeing the cup half empty or seeing the cup half full, depending on where you stand. But let me say that it was Professor Wale Soyinka who said that one of the most difficult wars to win are low intensity wars or conflicts. They are underground. They are run by militias, guerrilla teams, and that is extremely difficult. There's no silver bullet for it. You just have to have a containment strategy. And I think what we have seen, yes, President Tinubu was clear. He said, I signed up for a tough job, don't pity me. And what we have seen in the last 2 years, work as hard as possible, pulling the necessary triggers, giving the necessary support to our defense forces in terms of ammunition, in terms of the Toscano jets. But just look at the sheer budget for 2025 alone. And I think also by appointing seasoned general to lead our campaign. As a president, I think what is required of him is to pick the very best, the very best. Even America has been blooded in a lot of wars. But let me say this. What we have seen is a spillover of what's happening in the Sahel region, which predated this administration. And the Chief of Defense Staff also talked about that. Then you look at, in fact, during the Buhari era, it was traced to the fall of Gaddafi in Libya and how the porous borders are now small arms and guns and able to come in. And that's how it started. Don't also forget, through time, and we've seen a lot of international reports, because of the porosity of our borders, because of dislocated societies and countries around our country, we've not only moved from Boko Haram, we've moved to ISWAP, we've moved to ISIS, a global terrorist organization that even America, with its might, is trying to wrap its hands around. So we must not
But Mr. Dare, Boko Haram is not in America. It's not America's problem. We have neighbors who have been able to shut these guys out. And you're talking about our porous borders. Why are we still talking about porous borders? Guns are coming into this country every single day. And the ones we see are the ones that we put in the media. But there's several others who slip through. We have a guy who's in charge of these borders. Why are they still porous?
Is it not because the borders are porous?
So what is the government doing about it? What is the government doing about it?
On a continuous basis, efforts are being made to secure our borders. That's one. Two, to secure our borders, Nigeria alone cannot do it. It must receive maximum support from Niger to the north, from Benin Republic, from Chad, and other neighboring countries. And unless you get the maximum support, then your effort is limited. I recall the last briefing the president had 2 Fridays ago with the service chiefs. He pointedly told them, we need to find a way to maximize the effectiveness of our effort by working with the other countries. Now, we have these countries, they are under military dictatorship. They are out of ECOWAS. So that's also a challenge. You know, some of these challenges are out there. It's just beyond just, putting our soldiers on the border, making them do the work. You must have some kind of collaboration. That's the way international relations is. Unless you get that collaboration, it's not going to work. Then let me also say, presently, the same governor who cried out to say, this is what's happening, 2 days ago came out and said, I want to thank the federal government that in the last few days, in the last 1 week, We have seen the impact of their support and things are improving. I was with him somewhere yesterday and I spoke with him and he said, yes, the federal government has responded. They've received more air cover, they've received more logistic support. So let me say this. Yes, we want the security problem in this country to abate. But we must also be mindful that the government knows that part of what it must do is to protect, constitutionally, is to protect the lives and properties of its citizens. And the government is not relenting. Very often, security problem is not a problem that you can simply solve with a silver bullet. But are there ongoing efforts on the part of our armed forces? Is the president focused on ensuring security across the length and breadth of this country? Absolutely. And it's a daily challenge.
In case you're just joining us, Lagos, we are speaking with Mr. Sunday Dare, who is a special advisor to President Tinubu on media and public communication. We'll take a quick break. We're live on Facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. We're also live on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. When we come back, we're still talking about Mr. President's 2 years in office, his accomplishments, and the way forward. Stay with us. It's still 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Millions of listeners trust us.
More conversation, more talk, more. Right after this.
Feeling under the weather? Tired of getting sick? Immunase from Vitabiotics can help. Immunase is a supplement packed with vitamins and minerals like vitamin D, zinc, and selenium that support your immune system. With Immunase, you can boost your natural defenses and fight infections, reduce your occurrence of illnesses, enjoy faster recovery, and better energy levels. Immunase from Vitabiotics, trusted partner to keep you healthy. Available at pharmacies near you.
Start your children's day with a great taste of Ovaltine, enriched with multi-nourishment, calcium, malt, and vitamin B12 to support learning and playtime. Ovaltine, smart choice for smart kids.
Now so I did on my own. Now a message enter my phone. Fiam. I can't click Fiam. Now so my money for account go. Fiam. Hey. If to say na Airtel you they use, them for first alert you before you click Airtel they identify spammers. Then alert them customers with AI powered service to make sure say you know for Mugu for Wuru scam messages. No charges, no subscription needed. Me self they go join Airtel. Fiam.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
It's the greatest for me. Hunger makes your cooking fun. Happiness, we go fill your belly. Enjoy the taste and aroma daily.
Hunger for great taste and aroma.
Success is like an aeroplane. You only see the graceful flight high up in the sky, but not the roaring powerful engines propelling it. Likewise, in the world of e-payments, you only see transactions done, funds remitted. But who pioneered these financial technology solutions? Well, you knew it as Value Card, now Unified Payments, Nigeria's premier financial technology service provider. Yes, it starts here. Find out more at www.up-ng.com. Unified Payments, unifying businesses for people.
Oh no, my company's confidential data has been hacked again, and I can't keep piling my office space with electronic junk devices. What will I do now?
Haven't you heard of eTerra Technologies Limited, expert in eco-friendly e-waste management and data destruction? They responsibly recycle electronic waste and also destroy sensitive data storage devices.
Please, how can I contact them?
You can contact them on 0908-709-0976 or visit their website at www.eterra.com.ng for more information.
But how am I sure that my company's information will be safe and they will manage our e-waste waste properly.
Ease your worry, my dear. This company is regulated by Federal Ministry of Environment, National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, as well as LASEPA. Also, their services are in compliance with international standards, so your e-waste and confidential information are in safe hands.
Wow, I am contacting them right away.
Go green, go e-Terra.
Did you know?
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 Did you know? Your dose of facts we bet you never knew. Right here on Nigeria Info 99.3.
The ancient Romans used to drop a piece of toast into their wine for good health. Hence, why we raise a toast.
Another 99.3. What can using Safari, a lifestyle digital that's designed just for you. With one click, you can make easy and fast payment transactions, pay bills, and even acquire easy loans. Hurry and download the Safari app on your Play Store. Visit safari.com for more information. Safari, borderless banking.
No be party jollof this thing.
I beg, make nothing hungry you again today.
I am pregnant where every day follow talk so.
Neighbor, I beg.
I beg neighbor, just one spoon.
No wahala.
Chef, what be your secret?
Now, Mr. Chef Seasoning Powder. Mr. Chef Seasoning Powder. Get spicy stew, goat meat, fried rice, and roasted beef from great aroma to great taste.
Elevate every meal with Mr. Chef Seasoning Powder. Chef.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
This is Hard Facts on Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. My name is Shegwa Rinze.
Yes, it's still Hard Facts. We are broadcasting live from our audiovisual studios right here in Italy Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. And we're still being joined by the Special Advisor to Mr. President on Media and Communication, Mr. Sunday Dare. Of course, we are assessing Mr. President's 2 years in office. Can we give the President a pass mark on a scale of 1 to 10? Is it 1? Or is it 9? Well, we're talking. We've looked at the issue of course, subsidy removal. We're talking insecurity. And before we went on that break, Mr. Dare was trying to explain to us what the government has done so far. There are those who actually continuously question the amount of monies that we throw into the security of Nigeria, which is not necessarily a problem. But then the issue is why the funding of our security agencies are shrouded in so much secrecy that we don't get any level of accountability. And many people wonder if this is not, if there is any return on the investments that we do in terms of security. Because if you ask me, about over 5,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, have been killed so far between the month of April and May, and I might be wrong because more and more statistics come out every single day. The amount of money that was budgeted in this year's budget, I beg your pardon, is a lot of money. Many applauded it, but is there really a return on that investment? I have a caller, a caller who calls every other day, and she's a victim of insecurity and terrorism in her state. She's been crippled by that event. She's lost her husband and her children, obviously ran to Lagos for some sort of succor. And for every day that she hears that more and more people are dying, based on what's happening, whether it's kidnapping, whether it's banditry, whether it's Boko Haram, she wonders if really government is doing anything. What would you say to that caller of mine? Her name is Joy, actually.
Well, what I would say is that government is doing something. It's unfortunate she had to experience that. But government is doing something to the extent that when you look at where we were 2 years ago, before renewed hope, and where we are today, and some of this data is, coming from the National Security Advisor's Office, working with all the other forces. At least we have 35,000 terrorists and criminals neutralized. That's the language across the country. So it's a mop-up process. 35,000 neutralized. We also look at what has happened when you look at the Southeast, because you also have to, beyond the entire country, you look at developments in the Southeast where you have the IPOD, the MSN, you look at the Northeast corridor, you look at the Northwest corridor, and we have seen improvements. And I think there's comfort in the fact that there's a mop-up operation. Over 35,000 militants, terrorists, bandits have been neutralized. There's some comfort to show that government is doing something when you also look at the number of warlords, about 1,700, that have been taken out and their cells disrupted completely. Like I said, this question of security, this issue of security, there is no silver bullet. But we have a government that is doing something about it. When you talk about the budget, the greatest investment when it comes to security is the investment in manpower, the men and women in uniform. Because if you buy the most sophisticated equipment in the world and you don't have these men and women trained, so very often, it's not just Nigeria, almost every country in the world, they don't put their defense budget out there in the open. It rarely happens. But we've seen those kind of jets, we've seen so many stuff that have come in terms of arms and ammunition for men of the armed forces to be able to curtail the security. But let me also say, security is not only the entire responsibility of the federal government. The sub-regional governments have a role to play. The local governments have a role to play. Even our societies and communities. And that's why I've come to the issue of kinetic and non-kinetic, listening post and the rest. So I think beyond what government is doing, beyond the hard wire and all of that, I think a new security consciousness needs to come in. And let me say 2 weeks ago, when the president directed that the forest guard, the recruitment into the National Forest Guard should start immediately, and that the young men and the guards must be properly trained and armed. It shows a president that is up to date on matters of security, looking at the different approaches. We've seen countries, you have the National Guard in America. You go to Kenya, they have their own guards too. So imagine in this country, we have forest guards, because most of these killings and the rest, they're either hidden in the forest or they launch from the forest. Imagine us having about 30,000 forest guards. We have 1,129 forests across this country. And that is where they hide the ammunition. That's where they hide the rocket launchers, the armored tanks, they're hidden there. So imagine each of these forests having, at the minimum, 2,000 armed soldiers. You start to wrap them up. So this is a president who is up to date and is making sure that it takes decisions and policies that will enhance our security cover and the security of our country. So I said to that young woman, the president is at work, our armed forces are at work. There's no silver bullet, but that effort will continue.
There is no... I want to talk about the economy quickly because my phone lines are blinking and people really have a barrage of questions for you. So I'm going to try to keep most of my questions on the economy very short, and I hope your answers will be straight to the point. You cannot have a stable, safe environment for business persons to invest in if security is not paramount. Secondly,
that's given.
Yeah, the issue of Naira devaluation and, floating of the Naira. The Naira dropped from 460 Naira to $1 in May 2023 to over 1,400. In fact, as at today, I think it's 158, if I'm not mistaken. Inflation is at 33.69%. That's as at April of this year. This is according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. How does the presidency justify these economic outcomes after floating the naira and removing subsidies, which were meant, in his words, to stabilize the economy? But then it looks more like a topsy-turvy to me, if you ask me.
I think some of your indicators are not correct. And inflation, for instance, the last time I checked, is down from 24.87 to 23.7.
This is a statistic from the MBS. This is from the MBS for April of this year.
It's 23.7. The latest.
I quoted April. I'm not saying today. I said as at April. That's last month. Not supposed to
power forward and deal with the latest data. If we're talking about development, if we're talking about relief and the rest, we deal with the latest data. That is the
great
the global standard. That's one. Two, yes, we were at 1,000. We were at 1,800 at some point about a year ago, and we had several interventions by the CBN, and we came down to as low in February, as low as 1,450, 1,500. Again, don't forget the interplay of market forces, competition, willing buyer, willing seller. The goal of the CBN is to make sure that you bring some sanity and some stabilization. The fluctuation we had before was jumping from 460 to 800 to 1,000. The velocity was so crazy, it was impossible for investors. If you budget today, in another 48 hours, dollar goes up. Well, we've seen some level of stabilization in the last 6 months or so, to the point that we're now at 1,570. So when you look at the band, it's been between 1,490 to 1,565. That should say something, because you must also, the government cannot over-regulate the forex sector. That's one. You must allow the market forces to play their role, and that's what happens everywhere. Now, there are other strong economic indicators out there that we can speak to. For the first time in a decade, are you with me?
I'm listening.
We have witnessed the highest growth in our economy. This an assessment coming from global experts from the World Bank. This economy is projected to grow to 3.6% this year.
Yes, but there was a caveat.
It's
not
coming from.
I remember reporting on that when the World Bank spoke of it. There was a caveat. They're saying that prices have refused to drop and people are not necessarily feeling the growth or those changes.
But they still gave us a positive projection. That means they're looking at some other. Let me say, look, not everything is 100% right now. But when you have an economy, external reserves have gone up. They are now at 39.40 billion. Where was it before? Less than 10 billion external reserves. That means we're doing something right. That's one. Two, you look at trade surplus. Trade surplus at about 17 billion. We're doing something. You look at diversification. Look at just solid minerals right now. Massive investment coming in for solid minerals in this country. That's important. Then, of course, people will say you paid off the IMF loan. What does it mean? It's important. That means some savings were made. But let me tell you the one that is most critical. Because when it comes to development, the sub-national is critical. We have sub-nationals that have been borrowing money from the banks, taking foreign loans. They have come out clearly to say in the last 14 to 16 months, they have had no cost to go to the bank to take loans because they have enough money to develop their state. That came from the fiscal space created by the policies under Bola Ahmed Tinubu, such that they're taking 62% higher of the funds they're taking from FARC every month. What are these states without the money that comes every month from the center? So when the center provides that big bucket, the states are able to fetch enough. If the federal is playing its part, the states are playing their part. What about the local government autonomy? Local government chairman who never saw $1 billion before. They're beginning to get about 2.6.
Mr. Dari, that's a conversation you and I can have on another day because it is not what it seems. So let's leave that on the side. I want to open up the phone lines. Lagos, we're live on facebook.com/Nigeria.
There's also
just hold on. Just hold on. I'm coming back to you, sir. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. You can join the conversation on WhatsApp 08095975805. You can also join the conversation on our phone lines for the ladies 0201-465-7190. Gentlemen 0201-277-0993. Mr. Sunday Diary can take your questions even if you post it on our live stream. But quickly, Mr. Diary, I cannot let you go without asking the question that is on the mind of I'm sure everybody who's calling is going to ask that question. The cost of living crisis is literally at our jugglers. It's literally squeezing us dry. I have never scraped the bottom of my pot to go on a summer holiday, and I'm literally bleeding. And talk less of having to fuel my vehicle. And that's me, who might probably be considered somewhere close to the middle class. The average person is unable to afford a loaf of bread. The minimum wage is 80,000. For some people, 75,000. There's still states who have still not upgraded to 80,000. The value of the naira is poorer than it's ever been against the dollar or any other money. What is the story that the presidency can tell the average Nigerian that will give them hope? Because you promised us renewed hope, but it's like we're seeing Shege on a daily basis. Help us make sense of this.
It's been renewed gradually. And let me say this. You see, you cannot eat omelette without breaking eggs. If we embark on tough decisions, we embark on reforms. And there must be some sacrifice. There must be some level of pain. There are going to be changes. Some of the reforms we've embarked on, and other countries have done it before. There's no way it will impact on the value of your currency. And that's the result of what we're seeing. But also, you have also seen, I think the fact that our economy is so tied to the dollar, the cost of living is affected in an upward trajectory. Again, it might just be simplistic for you to say, no, the dollar is going up. But it's important that when you shave up almost 300 naira or 250 naira people bought dollar at 1,800, 2,000 naira. But that's different. But let me just, let me get a bit granular about this, because you also put yourself in the picture.
Well, I'm considered, better, a bit better off, even though I'm suffering. Yeah.
No, you gave the example, and I identify, and what you have put forward is legitimate because a lot of Nigerians can connect to it. But I'm saying that when you embark on reforms, reforms suggest that there will be sacrifices, there will be adjustments that people have to make. Some of them will include self-censorship. But what the government has done is to also make sure that they put in place, I'm careful about using the word pilotage, but beyond the pilotage, government has put in place initiatives and policies to help Nigerians get some succor. Let me say, for instance, NEFON, we've had so much story about it, but this is significant. 600,000 Nigerians who never had a single naira in terms of support for education are enjoying that right now. That is massive, almost 59 billion naira. That's on the one side. When it comes to CNG, we have an option, an alternative in the CNG, which is lower cost. We've done interviews, we've seen people who filled their tank 25,000 naira, now they'll be 2,500 naira. The story of India, massive population. The penetration of CNG was able to help bring down the cost of living. We're on that path. Are we on the right path with this reform? Absolutely. Will it take a bit more time before things ease up? Yes. And the president has always
in the interim, how many of us have to die of hunger while you're on the path, sir?
The president has always said, I want to thank Nigerians for their perseverance. I want to thank them for their support, and that these reforms will bring about the country that we want to have. Okay. So we must focus on the people angle of some of these policies. Is it in agriculture? Is it in health, where we have 5,000 primary health care centers already being revitalized? 1,000 of them are already functional? Is it the 6 cancer centers? 3 cancer centers are already for commissioning? Is it the legacy projects? So when you must look at the totality of it, they contribute to the cost of living. Okay. Because when you have the road, the cost of transportation, the prices at the last mile also comes down. So we must look at the totality of the effort of government.
All right.
Not just isolate, because of the cost of bread, that state is not working. All of it must come together. That's what is called the economy. They're integral parts. And this president has his finger on the critical fundamentals of this economy. That's why we can talk about it.
I have too many questions. Unfortunately, I have just 5 minutes and I need to let Lagosians in. I have to bring you back. Maybe this time you have to come in person. There are too many questions.
I will come in person. That's the promise. I'll come in person.
Lovely. But I have to open up the phone lines because I have just 5 minutes on the clock. Lagos, 30 seconds each. Go straight to the point. He knows it's a good evening. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts.
Hi, Maryann. Good evening, Mr. Dari.
30 seconds.
No problem. Mr. Dari, sir, when last did you go take a walk to just see what the masses are feeling? When last? See, I had to go to YouTube to put a face to the voice I'm listening to. And from all indications, I can see that the president is taking very good care of you people who are his constituents, while we, the masses, are left at his mercy, while we wrestle with lack, penury, hunger. If I asked you to score your principal, and I'm sure you'll give him a bogus pass mark, but my question is, what is the essence of the president's reform when it's not reforming people like me?
30 seconds is gone. Thank you very much. Great question. He's going to take that down and answer it. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts. Hello.
Good evening, Miriam.
Good evening.
Thank you very much.
30
this morning
seconds.
In your news, we hear how the gunmen hold some estate. Is it in Kubu also? Kebbi State this morning. Is it Kebbi or Jigawa this morning? You are telling me insecurity. Oh my gosh. Where is Keshin Shetima that boasted that he would be in charge? See the way he's talking as if he's not in Nigeria. For God's sake, please now, this should stop. Let them keep to what they promised. Say, we'll do this, we'll do it. Let them do it, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling. I do appreciate it. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts. 30 seconds. Oh dear, please call me back if that was you. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead. 30 seconds.
My name is Austin. I want to ask the guest, when he talks about stability, does it mean when the government made dollar at 300 or 400 and something, it doesn't mean they cannot stabilize it at that 400 and something? Must it be moved from 400 and something to 1,600 before you stabilize it? Or the liter of oil be moved from 200 to 1,000 before you stabilize it? Must the kilo of gas be moved from a certain amount to a higher amount before you stabilize it?
Thank you very much for calling. I do appreciate it. Mr. Dare, you have 1 minute and 42 seconds to respond. Would you like to respond to some of them?
I'll respond. First, let me just sue for
we can't see you.
Some level of patience and understanding on the part of Nigerians. Like I said, when you take on reforms like this, which is expected of leaders to try and correct things, oftentimes it brings about difficulties, but it's a phase, and that will pass. Secondly, I hope they'll find some comfort in the fact that there are concerted efforts at different levels of government to address whether it's the cost of living, whether it's the insecurity, whatever it is, there are efforts. They might not be enough, but those efforts are ongoing, and the president is at work to make sure that these efforts yield fruit. But also in 2 years, we can look back and say, yes, we have some positives that have also confirmed that some of these reforms were well thought out. Even the World Bank has said that the fact that we took these reforms on earlier has made us a bit fortified against the new tariff regime of America, and also the oil price fluctuation that we're seeing because of the Ukraine-Russia war. So we have a government that is in place. We can't do without a government, but we have a government who is alive to its responsibilities And I'm sure that this concerted efforts will yield more fruit, and Nigerians will begin to see the ease of when it comes to the cost of living and the challenges they have. Thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Sunday Dare is the special advisor to the president on media and public communications, and he's been talking to us about Mr. President's gains in his 2 years in office. Thank you so much, Mr. Dare. We're going to hold you to that promise. Hopefully we can get you back live into the studio. That way we can get more out of you.
Absolutely. I promise.
All right.
You have a rain check on me.
All right. Lovely. Okay, Lagos, that's the show. We want to thank you all for being part of the conversation. At the top of the hour, the news comes with Yvonne or Haifo. I'm Maryann Okon. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, MIMIEYO, or just Google Maryann Okon. I love you, Lagos. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.